Mira didn't know that the man she'd just thrown wine at was the Alpha King of the Northern Realm. She didn't know that he'd been searching for her for 3 years, and she certainly didn't know that the engagement announcement she'd overheard, the one that had shattered what remained of her foolish heart, had been a political maneuver designed specifically to draw her out of hiding. The red wine dripped down his face like blood, staining the crisp white collar of his formal attire. The entire ballroom had gone silent. 500 guests held their breath, watching the impossible unfold. A servant girl, still clutching an empty crystal goblet, standing before the most powerful wolf in the known kingdoms. His eyes found hers. Silver, like moonlight caught in ice. Something flickered in them, not anger, not even surprise. Recognition. "There you are," he said softly, so softly that only she could hear. Finally. Mira's blood turned to ice water in her veins. She ran. Her worn servant's shoes slapped against the marble floors as she fled through the kitchens, past the startled cooks and the mountains of dirty dishes she should have been washing. 3 years she'd hidden in plain sight, working as a scullery maid in Lord Ashford's manor, keeping her head down, her wolf suppressed so deeply she could barely feel her anymore. 3 years of scrubbing floors and sleeping in a closet and pretending she was nobody, because being nobody was safer than being her. The cool night air hit her face as she burst through the servants' entrance. The garden stretched before her, a maze of hedges and moonlight. If she could just reach the forest beyond the walls, she could disappear again. Find another manor, another kitchen, another life of quiet invisibility. She made it 3 steps before she felt it. The bond. It slammed into her chest like a physical blow, hot and golden and undeniable. The thing she'd been running from. The thing she'd felt the moment she'd seen him standing in that ballroom, tall and broad and radiating the kind of power that made lesser wolves drop to their knees. The thing she'd tried to drown with wine when she'd heard Lady Ashford giggling to her friends about the Alpha King's upcoming wedding to Princess Helena of the Southern Isles. "No," she whispered, pressing her hand to her sternum where the bond pulsed like a second heartbeat. "No, no, no. Running won't sever it." His voice came from behind her, calm as still water. "I've tried. For 3 years I've tried everything. Distance, wolfsbane, the strongest blocking spells gold can buy. Nothing works. You're in my blood, little wolf. You've been in my blood since the moment I saw you at your father's funeral, and no amount of running will change that." Mira spun to face him. He stood in the doorway, wine still dripping from his jaw, and somehow that made him more terrifying rather than less. An Alpha King should have been furious. He should have had her dragged away in chains for the insult she'd just delivered in front of the entire noble court. Instead, he was watching her like she was the only thing in the world worth looking at. "You're mistaken," she said, her voice steadier than she felt. "I'm just a servant. I don't have a father. I don't have anyone. You're Mira Thornwood, daughter of the Alpha of the Western Mountains, and you've been missing since the night your pack was slaughtered." He took a step toward her. Just one. Measured. Careful. Like she was a wild animal he didn't want to spook. "I know because I've had 300 men searching for you since that night. I know because I've memorized the reports of every dark-haired woman spotted in every town, every village, every godforsaken corner of every kingdom. I know because I haven't slept a full night in 3 years, kept awake by a bond that screams at me constantly to find you, protect you, claim you. I don't want to be claimed." The words came out sharp, defensive. "I don't want to be anyone's anything. I just want to be left alone." Something like pain flickered across his features. "Even if leaving you alone is killing me slowly?" Mira's jaw tightened. She couldn't feel sorry for him. She wouldn't. "You're engaged to a princess. Go be killed slowly by her." "Ah." A ghost of a smile touched his lips. "So you did hear the announcement?" "I heard enough. I heard that the Alpha King Caspian of the Northern Realm has selected Princess Helena as his eternal mate and future queen. I heard that the wedding will unite the two greatest kingdoms in history. I heard. Her voice cracked, and she hated herself for it. I heard the champagne toast, the congratulations, the celebrations. And what did you feel? The question was so quiet, so knowing, that it cracked something open in her chest. It doesn't matter what I felt, she managed. It matters to me. He took another step. The distance between them was shrinking, the bond pulling tighter with every inch. Tell me what you felt, Mira. Tell me the truth. She should lie. She should tell him she felt nothing, that she was happy for him, that she hoped he and his princess lived a long and prosperous life together. But the bond wouldn't let her. It burned under her skin, demanding honesty, demanding acknowledgement, demanding that she stop running just long enough to admit what she'd known since the first moment his silver eyes had met hers across a crowded funeral pyre. I felt like I was dying, she whispered. I felt like someone had reached into my chest and ripped out something vital. I felt. She pressed her palm harder against her sternum, as if she could physically hold herself together. I felt like a fool. Because for one stupid moment I'd let myself hope. Even knowing you didn't know I existed. Even knowing I'm nobody. Even knowing. That's where you're wrong. He was close now. Close enough that she could smell him. Pine and wood smoke and something wild. Something that made her wolf stir for the first time in years. I've known you existed since the night we met. You were 17. I was there to negotiate a treaty with your father. You walked into the great hall wearing a blue dress the color of morning glories, and you smiled at a serving boy who'd spilled wine on his tunic, telling him not to worry, that it happened to everyone. His voice dropped, rough with emotion. The bond snapped into place so hard I couldn't breathe. You were too young. You didn't feel it yet. Your wolf hadn't fully awakened. So I left. I gave you time. I planned to return when you turned 20, to court you properly, to give you the choice you deserved. Mira's heart was pounding so hard she could hear it in her ears. But you didn't return. Your pack was attacked 3 weeks before your 20th birthday. His hands clenched at his sides. By the time I got there, everyone was dead. Your father, your brother, your mother. Everyone except you. And you'd vanished like smoke. The only thing left was a blood-soaked field and a bond stretching into the distance, telling me you were alive somewhere, hurting somewhere, alone somewhere. Before we continue, please take 2 seconds to like this video. It tells me you want more stories like this. Mira couldn't process what she was hearing. It didn't align with anything she'd believed for the past 3 years. You're the Alpha King. You have responsibilities, a kingdom, a future to secure. Why would you waste resources searching for my mate? Something dangerous flashed in his silver eyes. For the other half of my soul? For the woman the moon goddess chose specifically for me? He laughed, but there was no humor in it. My council thinks I've lost my mind. My advisors have been begging me to mate and produce an heir. The other kingdoms have been circling like vultures, sensing weakness, sensing that the Alpha King is incomplete. His voice softened. But how could I bond with anyone else when I could feel you? When every breath you took echoed in my chest? When your nightmares woke me in the dark, and all I could do was reach across hundreds of miles of nothing, trying to send you peace? Mira felt tears burning behind her eyes. Stop. Why? Because I can't. She shook her head, backing away. I'm not what you think. I'm not the girl in the blue dress anymore. I'm damaged, Caspian. I'm broken. I watched my entire family die, and I couldn't do anything. And I've been running ever since because running is all I know how to do. Then stop running. He closed the distance between them in 2 strides, and suddenly his hands were cupping her face, warm and impossibly gentle for a man who could break bones with his bare hands. Stop running, and let me help you stand still. His touch sent sparks cascading through her nervous system. The bond sang between them, golden threads wrapping around her heart, pulling her toward something she'd been terrified to want. The princess? She managed. Helena. The engagement is fake. His thumbs traced her cheekbones, wiping away tears she hadn't realized she'd shed. A calculated rumor I spread through every court in every kingdom, knowing it would reach you eventually, knowing you would hear that I was choosing someone else, and finally feel the bond strongly enough that I could track it to its source. His forehead dropped to hers. I needed you to feel what I've been feeling for 3 years, Mira. I needed you to understand what it's like to know your mate exists but can't reach them. I needed. That's manipulative. But she wasn't pulling away. She couldn't pull away. Not with his breath mingling with hers, not with his heartbeat thundering against her palms where they'd somehow landed on his chest. Yes, he admitted without shame, I would burn the world down to find you. I would lie, cheat, and manipulate every noble in every realm if it brought you back to me. I would. His voice broke, and for the first time, she saw the exhaustion behind his silver eyes, the weight of 3 years of searching, waiting, hoping. I would do anything, Mira. There is no line I wouldn't cross, no price I wouldn't pay, no part of my soul I wouldn't sacrifice. You are not my second choice. You have never been my second choice. You were my first choice before I even knew what choosing meant. The fight drained out of her. Maybe it was the bond, finally allowed to breathe after years of being suffocated. Maybe it was the way he looked at her, not as a broken thing to be pitied, but as something precious that had been lost and finally found. Maybe it was simply that she was tired, so desperately tired of running, of hiding, of pretending she didn't ache for exactly this. I don't know how to be anyone's mate, she whispered. I don't know how to be a queen. I don't know how to be anything except a ghost. Then we'll figure it out together. His lips brushed her forehead, gentle as a prayer. I don't need you to be perfect, Mira. I don't need you to be healed or whole or ready. I just need you to stay. Can you do that? Can you just stay? The word caught in her throat. Stay. Such a simple concept, but she'd forgotten what it meant. Staying meant roots and belonging and letting someone see her, really see her, wounds and nightmares and all. Staying meant trusting someone not to die on her. What if I can't? Her voice came out small, scared. What if I wake up one day and the running instinct is too strong and I vanish again? Then I'll find you again. No hesitation, absolute certainty. I'll find you as many times as it takes. I'll chase you across every kingdom, through every forest, into every hiding place you create. You can run for the rest of your life, Mira, and I will follow. That's what this bond means. That's what you mean to me. She kissed him. She didn't plan to. One moment she was trying to find more arguments, more reasons why this could never work, and the next her fingers were fisting in his wine-stained shirt, and her lips were on his, and the bond exploded between them in a cascade of gold and warmth and rightness. Caspian made a sound low in his throat, relief and hunger, and something that sounded almost like a sob. His arms wrapped around her, lifting her off her feet, pulling her so close that she could feel every line of his body pressed against hers. He kissed her like he was drowning and she was air, like he'd been holding his breath for 3 years and finally could breathe again. When they broke apart, gasping, his eyes were no longer silver. They were gold. Wolf's eyes. His wolf had surged to the surface called by hers, and Mira realized with a start that her own wolf was awake for the first time since the massacre. Not just awake, singing, howling with joy at finding her mate, at finally being allowed to acknowledge what she'd always known. Come home with me, Caspian breathed against her lips. Not as a servant or a prisoner or an obligation. Come home with me as my equal, my partner, my queen. Let me show you what your life was always meant to be. I have nothing. The practical part of her brain was scrambling for purchase. I have no pack, no family, no dowry, no political connections. I bring nothing to an alliance except a target on my back. Whoever destroyed my pack is still out there. Still, I know who destroyed your pack. His jaw tightened. Lord Ashford, your gracious employer. His father wanted the Western Mountain Territory for their expansion, and your father refused to sell. So they hired mercenaries, framed it as a rogue attack, and have been slowly absorbing your family's lands ever since. The world tilted. Mira gripped Caspian's arms, her nails digging in. What? Why do you think I insisted the trade summit be held here, in this specific manner? A cold smile touched his lips. Ashford has been under investigation for 3 years. I have witnesses, documents, a full confession from one of the mercenaries. He'll be arrested before dawn. His hand came up to cradle her face again. I wasn't just searching for you, love. I was hunting for the people who hurt you, because no one touches what's mine and escapes the consequences. Mira's legs gave out. Caspian caught her, sweeping her up into his arms like she weighed nothing. She buried her face in his neck, shaking, as the pieces of the past 3 years rearranged themselves into a picture she never could have imagined. He'd been protecting her, even when she didn't know he existed, even when she was hiding from everything, including herself. He'd been working in the shadows to deliver justice for her family. You kept looking for me, she said, her voice muffled against his throat. Even when everyone told you to stop. I would have looked forever. He pressed a kiss to her hair. 1,000 years wouldn't have been enough to make me give up. You're my mate, Mira. My fated. The person the gods specifically created to match my soul. Do you understand what that means? There is no one else. There has never been anyone else. There will never be anyone else. She pulled back to look at him. This powerful king who had torn apart kingdoms to find a girl who'd been scrubbing his enemies' dishes. His face was still stained with wine, his formal clothes were ruined, and he was looking at her like she'd hung the moon and stars specifically for him. I'm afraid, she admitted. I know. I might have nightmares. I might wake up screaming. Then I'll hold you until you remember where you are. I might not be able to give you heirs. The trauma, there might be damage. Then we'll adopt 100 orphan pups and love them all. He kissed the corner of her mouth. I don't want you for your womb, Mira. I want you for you. Your strength, your survival, your ridiculous habit of throwing wine at people who upset you. A watery laugh escaped her. You're never going to let me forget that, are you? I'm going to commission a painting of it. His grin was wicked. The Great Hall of the Northern Palace is very empty. It needs some art. She kissed him again, softer this time. A promise rather than a question. Okay, she whispered. Okay? Okay. I'll stay. I'll try. She took a shaky breath. I'll let you court me properly. If that's still what you want. It's what I've wanted for 6 years. He started carrying her back toward the manor. But first, we have an arrest to oversee. I want you there when they put the chains on Ashford. I want you to see him realize that the serving girl he's been mistreating is the future queen of the most powerful realm in existence. Despite everything, a spark of dark satisfaction kindled in Mira's chest. Can I throw more wine at him? Caspian laughed, the sound rumbling through his chest and into hers. You can throw whatever you want, my love. The Northern Realm has very deep cellars. 3 months later, Mira woke to sunlight streaming through windows she still couldn't believe were hers. The queen's chambers of the Northern Palace were obscenely large, bigger than the entire servants' quarters she'd shared with 12 other maids at Ashford Manor. The bed alone could have fit a small army, draped in silks and furs and more pillows than any reasonable person could use. But the best part wasn't the luxury. The best part was the arm around her waist, pulling her back against a warm, solid chest. You're awake, Caspian murmured against her neck. I felt it through the bond. Still getting used to that. She traced the marking on her collarbone, the mate mark he'd given her 3 weeks ago, during a ceremony that had made her cry in front of 5,000 witnesses. feeling each other's emotions, knowing when you're close without seeing you. You'll grow to love it. He nuzzled behind her ear. I already do. Every time you're happy, I feel it like sunshine in my chest. Every time you laugh, His arms tightened. Do you know how long it's been since I felt genuine joy, Mira? Not satisfaction, not victory, not the grim pleasure of duty fulfilled, but joy. Real, uncomplicated, bone-deep joy. She rolled over to face him. Her alpha king, her mate, her impossibly patient partner, who had spent the past 3 months showing her exactly what she was worth. Teaching her that she deserved soft touches and gentle words and a seat at the council table where her opinions mattered. Learning her favorite foods, her reading preferences, the specific way she liked her tea. Holding her through the nightmares that still came sometimes, never once making her feel weak for having them. I love you, she said. His eyes went molten gold, the way they always did when she said those words. You have no idea what it does to me when you say that. I think I do. She pressed her palm to his chest, feeling his heart race beneath her hand. I feel it too, remember? He kissed her, slow and thorough, and she melted into it like she always did now. The bond hummed between them, satisfied and warm, finally at peace after years of desperate searching. I have to tell you something, he said when they finally broke apart. 2 things, actually. Good or bad? One of each. He propped himself up on his elbow. The good news, the reconstruction of the Western Mountain Territory is complete. Your family's packlands are fully restored and 47 survivors have been located and relocated. They're waiting for their alpha. Mira's breath caught. Survivors? You found your old nanny, 3 of your father's guard members, children who were hidden during the attack. His face softened. They've been scattered across the kingdoms, living as refugees. My men have been tracking them down quietly. They're yours now, if you want them. A pack to rebuild. A legacy to continue. Tears spilled down her cheeks. She'd thought everyone was dead. She'd thought she was the last of the Thornwoods, alone in the world, packless and purposeless. And the bad news? She managed. Caspian's expression hardened. Lord Ashford's trial concluded yesterday. He was found guilty on all counts. The execution is scheduled for tomorrow. Mira was quiet for a long moment. She'd attended the trial, watched the evidence pile up, listened to witness after witness describe the horrors ordered by the man she'd served for 3 years. She'd seen his face go pale when he realized exactly who she was. She'd felt nothing but cold satisfaction when the verdict was read. I want to be there, she said finally. Are you sure? I'm sure. She sat up, her hair tumbling around her shoulders. I want to look him in the eye. I want him to know that he failed, that despite everything he did, everything he took from me, I survived. I found my mate. I rebuilt my pack. And now I'm going to watch him pay for his crimes. Caspian sat up too, cupping her face in his hands. There she is. There who is? The queen I always knew you'd become. He kissed her forehead. Strong, fierce, unbroken. The woman who throws wine at kings and faces her demons with her head held high. Mira laughed, a genuine laugh, the kind she'd relearned over the past 3 months. I'm still terrified most of the time, you know. I still wake up thinking I'm back in that closet at Ashford Manor. And then what happens? And then I feel the bond. And I remember that you're real. That this is real. That I'm not dreaming. You're not dreaming. He pulled her into his lap, wrapping around her like a shelter. This is your life now. Mira Thornwood, Queen of the Northern Realm, Alpha of the Western Mountains. This is what you deserve. What you've always deserved. And I'm going to spend every day for the rest of our very long lives making sure you never forget it. She rested her head against his shoulder, watching the sunlight paint patterns on the wall. Outside, she could hear the palace waking up, servants moving through the halls, guards changing shifts, the distant sound of wolves howling their morning greetings. Her wolves, her palace, her kingdom, her mate. Caspian. I'm really glad you found me. His arms tightened around her. I'm really glad you stopped running. They sat there as the sun rose higher, wrapped in each other and the golden threads of a bond that had survived distance, time, and tragedy. Not a second choice. Never a second choice. His first, his only, his forever. Where are you listening from? Let's meet in the comments. I love hearing your thoughts. And if you'd like to support me, please subscribe. It's free, and it helps more people hear these stories.